There's some anime that you see the first episode and you can't avoid asking the question, could it get any worse? As I said in the video about Mahou Shoujo Asuka, there were 2 anime I wanted to talk about last year, and this is the second. I really have to do these videos about the anime that are still getting me views, but since these episodes are shorter, it's going to take me less time, so why not? So let's go. But how? But why? But follow my socials. This is the first thing, and it's not the most revolting thing of the anime, but it shows how poorly developed this is. He has the same name as a very important historical character in Japanese history, and they stop the image, put a drum sound and this background, so the indication is that he's going to be that character or just as important. But he's not. One of the big jokes of the first episodes depends on him not being the same character. This is part of the character's issue, but knowing what I know about what's going to happen... He just heard about 2 of his students dating, and he's angry because he should be dating. And this student is going to offer to go out with him after she finishes school. This is a stereotype in Japanese culture, and it's not as bad as it sounds. Of course, the older person could be taking advantage of the younger person if they start a relationship, but there is this idea of the younger person waiting until they can be together. Yes, it's typically the woman, but leave this to the side for just a second. I'm making sure to point this out because even though this is going to be thrown out in a second, until this point, it looks like the 2 were handling well this situation. But this is not going to be relevant anymore. So you can't say that this is well developed. Of course, if you look at it rationally, what she's doing is declaring herself to him and him accepting his emotions without them entering into a relationship because they can't, and this would have been so much better than what we got. They even make sure to show the 2 are kinda awkward with the situation. His father has the same name as Nobunaga's father, but as I said, this is going to be just a detail. Maybe it's because I know what's going to happen, but this conversation is extremely stupid. The father throws in that he should be getting married, the mother says he shouldn't be older than 35 when he gets married, and his sister just asks if he's interested in 3D girls. And he says this is supposedly because he's a direct descendant from the original Nobunaga Oda. And that doesn't make any sense to me because if the father were looking at it from that angle, they would probably have planned the wedding for him already. He wants to date someone, the family wants him to have someone, in a culture where he can find someone for that purpose. Omiai still exists. He changes his topic, asking the father why he was called there, and the father says he wants him to clean the warehouse, so of course his lines are all weird. That's one of the other things. This is going to be a fanservice-y comedy series that doesn't know how to do fanservice, and has weak comedy. And then the gimmick of the story happens that he breaks a chawan, and his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother shows up. And of course he immediately thinks that she was sent to be his wife. His parents think he kidnapped her, but of course the sister was there to say she showed up out of nowhere, and she wakes up asking what country she was kidnapped to. And only now watching it again, I can notice that this was supposed to be a joke. It's that joke of the guy who didn't do anything wrong, but nobody believes him because it's unbelievable. Except he has a witness! Yeah, you know that series that throws something to be funny, but if you're not paying attention, it just passes by? And his father attacks him. After the sister confirms he didn't do anything. It's literally, I'm not thinking because the script wants me to do something that I wouldn't do. The whole family is seeing there's something wrong, but he just smiles because she said she wants to marry him. Omiyais exist. And then he goes in a caricature, in a very poorly done way, in a caricature, to ask her her age because in his head, that's the only thing that could be a problem. It's like the author has no concept of what a human being is. Oh my god, she's 15. The problem is not that she might be completely incompatible or that she's talking in a way that's so formal that you would probably know that she's not from your country or culture. The problem is that she's 15. And then, especially if you have seen the second episode, you reach the conclusion of why this is being done this way. It seems to me that the author thinks that this character could do all of this But there's this new thing about not marrying a character who is too young. When I say that this kind of discussion didn't happen in Japan yet, this is what I mean. It all points to me that the author thinks nothing changed except that now we are listening to the Western people. It's offensive in an extreme way. I could be wrong. It could be that only this character thinks that way, but there's going to be validation of this in the second episode. They ask her a bunch of questions. She says everything according to history except for her age being 1 year older than what they expected, so they basically come to the conclusion that she's the real deal and she came to the future. But she doesn't believe them because she doesn't know what Nobunaga looks like and she doesn't know how she got there. So she surmises that they are trying to play a trick on her and states she's not going to just believe him because she's his wife. And he's surprised that she doesn't love him without ever having met him. Then she asks to talk to him privately and immediately strips down, saying it's just a formality, but they have to make a child. And originally I said that this character has at least some strength for being able to do what she feels she has to do for her own sake. But it's really difficult to say the author is not using this as an excuse to make fan service. And I've said this already, if you want to do fan service, do fan service. The problem for me here is that everyone involved, including the author, knows this was not supposed to be shown. If it was just for the joke, it could have been made in a million other ways that wouldn't show her body. Oh, but it is a joke because there's a cartoon of her in front of what you wouldn't see because she has a hand in front of it. It's like the worst excuse possible for somebody to say, I'm not doing what I'm obviously doing, it's just a joke. And then the sister, who previously said that he was not responsible, immediately accuses him of making her strip down. She's exactly the only character who knows that the girl was saying all of that by her own free will, because she saw that she came out of nowhere. So the only explanation is nobody's thinking. And then, of course, the little girl says in front of her that she's the one pushing for it, that she's the one with that backwards mentality. And the sister immediately says she's going to call the cops. The sister could easily have said, don't take advantage of her, no matter what she says. And at least it would be her in that situation. But no, we have to have a character floating in the ether. Putz. And Nobunaga, who is not a good character, tells his sister to take care of the girl because he's going back home. And the sister says he has to take care of her. Why? You're literally saying he has to stay with the girl just because you decided that. While you're saying that he might want to abuse her, he's literally demonstrating that he doesn't want that, and you are forcing him to stay with the girl. And of course it's worth repeating what I've already said. These little stickers in the end are not caricatures and fun, it's laziness. Pure and simply because it's easier to do it this way, instead of doing what's best for the scene. Because if you saw the character moving away and making gestures that he doesn't want to be with her, it would be easier for you to understand that he doesn't want to be with her. But the show wants you to think that him being a pervert makes some sense. And by the way, a woman with breasts this size probably isn't twirling all that much because it must really hurt. I know, spine's made of diamonds. But despite what some people might want you to believe, this body type exists. It's just not magically wonderful. And I've been recording a 7-minute episode for an hour. It's a bird! It's a plane! No, it's a commercial. Second episode starts with him going home with her late at night, and thinking that him being a teacher and living with a 14-year-old would be scandalous. Which is part of the conflict I was talking about. There are antiquated things in society, no question. But he's an adult living with a 14-year-old who is not related to him. If you're talking about cousins, there's no reason to think something would happen. They're the same family, much less siblings, no matter what age tells you. But when you're talking about this situation, it's absolutely weird. Probably in a sane family, she would have stayed with his parents. But we have to have funny situations. She still thinks they're going to be married. She's going to try to escape and be near him. Just put in some effort. And of course, she smiles exactly because of that. And of course, as a critic, I cannot just say this is horrible. I have to point out when something is good. This is a well-done element of comedy. She's in a new place, she never saw anything like this, and she misinterprets it, even if in an intelligent way. So since she sees the whole condominium at his castle, and there are many entrances, she assumes that this is meant to prevent people from knowing which room he is in, which could be a legitimate strategy at that time. Again, it's a way of showing that she's intelligent, even if she can't magically know what's happening in this new time. And of course, he can't understand what she's talking about because she thought all of that on her own. That is a joke. Everybody acting like complete idiots is not a joke. And she says she's tired. He assumes that's because at that time they went to bed earlier, and she immediately strips. I can say it's at least closer to being a joke because it was out of nowhere, but it's still pretty weak. And he thinks that he always wanted to hear what she said, but tells her that's not going to happen. And then some sad music plays when she says it's because she looks too young. And then to console her, he makes that face and says he can easily get excited about her body. He says she's a blank staring lolly like in the games, and of course she doesn't understand. And then he says it's the ethical issues. I don't think I have to explain that, but the problem with having sex with somebody underage, it's far from being just morals or ethics. Holy fuck. You're literally ignoring that she's too young to know what's going to happen to her, much less have the maturity to make such a decision. Maybe you can say that at that time people had to mature earlier, but look at how much you have to twist that for maybe making this okay at that time. At this time, which is supposed to be current, there's no way of making such an argument. Then he says you cannot get married until you're 16, and you cannot have sex without being married until you're 18, which I have no idea if that's how the Japanese law works. She asks why, and he says that it makes no sense, and god damn it, I want to strangle the son of a bitch. But then her, being so smart in this horrible place that this anime is, says that what matters is not getting caught. He says that he literally agrees with her, but she says he just has a lot of self-control, starts to caress his stomach, and says that her handmaids taught her all the sensual tricks possible. He gets curious about the seduction techniques of the Age of the Samurai, and she lays down in bed. That's the joke. And goddammit, if I have to see her cartoon face covering her, I think I'm going to be ill. Oh, and the horror of not seeing the sexual techniques of that age, because I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that it's not about not being able to a 14-year-old, makes him drop to his knees and yell that her techniques are all wrong. She gets irritated and asks what he should do for him. And as you can see, he's demonstrating. I think I feel an aneurysm here. She dresses up and assumes the position. He says to himself in his head that she should be a little more ashamed, and she's ashamed. But she gets embarrassed about making the pose, throws herself in the bed, and says she can't do that anymore. And she says she didn't expect it to be so difficult to seduce a man and learned from the experience. Which kind of points to the fact that she can't agree to participate in this. She has no idea what she's talking about. And he asks her what she wanted to do besides making babies, and understands that he can teach her what she never learned. And I actually thought this is the point where he would be a nice guy. And the way he's going to educate her is making her play romance games. It was just a stupid joke. And of course, it's an age game, which he sees as an advantage, but the episode ends with his sister saying, "Why are you so dumb?" Of course, this is a judgment from the person who saw he was not responsible for her, but it's still sad that he should be with her. Ow. Well, I gotta make money, don't I? Third episode starts with Nobunaga taking his bride to school, and the girl who basically confessed her feelings for him being worried. Yes, it's exactly what you think is going to happen. Of course, a flashback to explain what's already obvious. In a short moment of being an actual human being, he thinks is the only way to socialize somebody her age. And of course the sister immediately asks, "Since when do you make sense?" And then the teacher calls his name, and her presentation is the boobs bouncing. And I can't even say it's breathing because it's not the little stop that they do. It looks like her boobs bounced because the camera went up. They're kind of controlling them? And it just calls more attention to her boobs not being well drawn. Suddenly I understand people asking where are her organs. Because she doesn't look human. It's not even the size, she's just really poorly drawn. The teacher offers help after introducing herself to her, and he blushes a little. But I just ask myself, why the loose hair? It's a style choice that's showing up more frequently, and I don't know why. Same sad song. At least he's making a face like, damn, this is going to go wrong. And then she notices that there are many girls in the class, which must mean they are candidates to be his wife. And she immediately announces that she's promised to marry him when she turns 16. And of course he falls, and that she doesn't mind them being concubines as long as they know their place. And the anime makes sure to focus on the faces of the other ones who are going into the harem. Of course, she's going to sit next to that student that stares at her so firmly that she breaks the line of the glasses. She's upset because she angered Nobunaga. And that student's friend goes to confront her in a moment that gets a lot more detail than other things that should have been detailed. This might be the funniest part of the whole thing. The friend tells the bride, that this student is in love with him. And this horrible reaction is when she says that they could have married already. Of course implying sex, but god damn it, this is ridiculous. The bride confirms they are not married yet, and the friend says it's good news. But of course the bride has to say she's the only one who can be his wife, and the friend gets angry. So the friends declare it's a war of arrow. The first to have sex with him will marry him. At least it's ridiculous enough that I can laugh at these ridiculous people. The friend brings Nobunaga and locks the door. The wife is naked to seduce him. He points out that the friend is still there, and the friend says the student is there too. And honestly, it's the first joke that makes me laugh in this whole thing. It's been 3 episodes. The friend explains what's happening. The student says that she couldn't get naked, but she could at least show her boobs. And he goes running to stop her. And you know what's going to happen. Of course you know what's going to happen. It's at least a little funny that his reaction is arrested. And of course steam coming out as a reaction, but then she says, no, it's okay, keep them there. How are my breasts? And in the very least it's so ridiculous that you can't take it seriously. It is a joke. And of course Mega Memories comes true. Again, this is not funny, this is just another thing thrown in. Oh, so funny would have been 30,000 years ago. But right before there was an actual funny joke of him saying, I broke Biwajima. And that's what's really disappointing, because obviously they know how to make a joke. They just didn't want to. By the way, this is the closest to his hair that his hair has been in the scene. It changed wildly as the angles changed. And he breaks apart in poorly done shots after saying his life as a teacher is over. If you don't believe that the anime companies know about the 3-episode test, there you go. The 3rd episode has half of a good episode, and you could certainly do something better if this had been the first one. And no, you don't need all this time to establish this stuff. Don't waste the 1st episode with the family saying stupid things and not thinking. Or make it 3 episodes with half the length. But no, they have to stretch it and stretch it to pretend they have the content. I have that little voice saying, yeah, the next episode could be good. But I had to wait for 2.5 episodes before I could laugh. So no, I do not recommend it. All of the implications tell me that no, you should not give any attention to this. And for those people who don't know the difference between a lolly and a child, yeah, they're going to look at this and say, yeah, it's anime, anime always does this. No, this is a bad one. Do not assume this. Loli does not automatically mean underage. I remember seeing a discussion on Twitter where basically a person of Asian descendancy was saying that when people say that everybody who likes anime is a pedophile, they are basically saying that her body type doesn't exist. And of course that she has these issues about feeling underdeveloped or such, and they are feeding that. And something clicked in my head. Body shaming is saying that a kind of body shouldn't exist. That applies to everybody, including the ones that are in vogue. So yeah, if your notion is that a person drawn with big boobs has no organs, you're contributing to that. You can't say this body is bad without validating people who are saying that body is bad. But that's it. I thought it was worth it putting that in the conclusion as well. Do not take this stupid series as a standard, because it's not. Bye guys, see you next time. And I still don't know why. What am I doing with my life? Come here. You wanna be shown? You'll be shown. Hey, say hi, Chavez. This really hurts.